So it's rare that I see plugins that reimagine or reinvent the wheel, taking traditional processes that I've been using for years and then lay them out different, make them sound different, or just change the entire workflow of what I'm accustomed to. Well, today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 3 plugins from a company called Techivation. One is called M-Puncher, another one is called T-Warmer, and another one is called T-De-Esser Pro. Now, of course, I know in your arsenal you have all 3 of these types of plugins, but what I found with these 3 plugins were how interesting they were laid out, how much functionality they gave me over other ones, and just how interesting they were in general that I think you'll find for yourself. Now, I will be honest with you and let you know that Techivation is sponsoring this video, but at the end of this video, you draw your own conclusions. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how they sound and how they work. So let's get to it. So the first plugin I'm gonna show you is a plugin called M-Puncher. Now, M-Puncher is a transient shaper. I'm gonna open this up on a kick and I want you to hear what it sounds like when I just dial in some stuff, and then I'll explain the plugin in its totality. Check this out. So you can hear it adds this clickiness to the kick, kind of accentuates that transient sound and just makes it feel so much punchier in its totality. Now, granted, always be careful when it comes to transient shapers and your headroom. When you are increasing the attack of something, you are losing headroom in certain instances. Granted, within the plugin, they've actually implemented a limiting function, which is basically a soft clipper that helps to mitigate and just limit that peak level that you're getting when you increase the actual punchiness, which is an awesome feature to have. And I'll explain it in detail. But when I bypass that back and forth, you can clearly hear that I get a lot more attack out of that kick simply with that one punchiness knob, and also I played around with a few other things within it, and I'll explain it in the whole 9. But let's just dive into the plugin and let you get an idea of how to use it and how it works. So here we have the punchiness knob, and with the punchiness knob, it's allowing you to decide how much attack you want on that sound or how much punchiness you want. You can go in the right direction, which is positive, which is going to give you more attack, or you can go in the left direction, which is going to give you less attack on a particular sound. So you can go right or left depending on what you want. So you can take away the emphasis on the transient as well as give emphasis to the transient. To the top left, you have this thump button or knob or fader or just slider or just a percentage. And long story short, what the thump is allowing you to do is it's allowing you to give a little bit of a bass boost to that attack of the signal. So let's listen to it. I'm going to crank it just so you can get an idea of what it sounds like. So when I listen to that thump, I can hear a little bit of that more thickness kind of come in there and stuff like that. It just feels like it's a little bit thicker, and I feel like I'm getting a little bit more fullness out of it. Now, granted, be mindful that when you're adding a lot more of that bass boost, you are eating up headroom. So just be very careful with just thinking, I'm gonna just crank the thump, crank the punchiness, and be mindful of your dynamics, because you are chewing up headroom when you do those types of moves. Be very subtle and be tasteful with those moves, especially when it comes to bass boosting. Listen to it with a sub as well, so you can really hear how much you're really adding into that signal. Cool. The next thing we have here is obviously a mix knob, which you can put it to 100, kind of do parallel kind of things with that. To the left-hand side, you have a makeup, which obviously you can decide if you want to give it more signal or volume or less signal or volume on the output as far as how much you put into the actual plugin, as far as driving it and things of that nature with the punchiness. Then you have auto, which is obviously an auto gain, or depending on how it detects the signal and you're trying to compensate for that in some way. self-explanatory if you're very used to plugins. On the right hand side, you have this diff button, which kind of lets you hear the difference with the unprocessed signal versus the processed signal. Check this out. I think this is really important to know. When I press the diff button, you can like clearly hear that clickiness that is actually being implemented into the signal. And this is letting me just hear that clickiness as it stands by itself. Check this out. Hitting diff. So hitting diff, I can hear that part of the signal that's getting added into, or what it feels like when it's actually on, without hearing the whole sound. I can hear what's actually being added to the signal. I'm getting a little bit of that clickiness that I know is going to cut through really, really well on speakers. And sometimes just a little bit of that type of sound, it makes a huge difference with the kick sound in general, as far as it feeling like this kick is smacking or feels punchy. No pun intended. Right here is the soft clipper, like I told you, kind of controlling that peak level as you're turning up that punchiness knob to help you control those peaks that you're now introducing into it. Like I said, you're increasing the punchiness, and the transients and things of that nature, and it's important to kind of keep those things in control if you're not trying to eat up so much of your headroom. So we do have a limiter here that's like works as a soft clipper. Then here, we have the sustain knob. And basically what the sustain knob is, for instance, it's like an old school producer trick. What you could do is, after the kick hits, and you know that little piece of the waveform that is kind of fading and tailing off, well, the sustain allows you to kind of turn up that tail or that sustain of the kick a little bit more. Why is that really important? What does that really sound like, and what does that do? Well, if that kick sounds like it, or we increase the tail's volume just a bit, it's gonna feel a little bit thicker inside the mix. This is an old producer trick that people would do. Some producers would literally take their kick and just make it longer as far as the tail of it, and it would make it feel like it hits harder in the mix. So basically, it's taking that tail off as far as how it goes down in volume and turning it up as far as the tail is concerned, giving you a thicker kind of sound that feels like it's heavier and sits up a little bit more. You're dealing with time, and that time that you're kind of adding to the volume of it kind of makes things feel a little bit more thicker and heavier within everything. So it's increasing the sustain of the actual sound source. Cool. The other thing we have here is tight, norm, and loose. Now, to not get so technical with it, what I'll explain it is as it's an envelope. To me, tight is very fast. I can hear that transient attack go away. It's very, very tight. It's very, very quick. Normal feels like it stays just a little bit longer, and it feels like it actually holds up a little thicker within it. Feels like the sound is a bit thicker. To be honest with you, normal has been my favorite. Loose is a little bit more of a slow kind of envelope. I'll let you hear all three just so you can get an idea what it sounds like. So I'll cycle through tight, norm, and loose. Tight first. So I can hear three different styles of that envelope and how it feels as far as that punchiness is concerned. Sometimes I felt like the tight was very quick, but then there was times where the normal just kind of held things a little bit longer, and I enjoyed that as well. Pick your poison, just know that's what that does. It's the envelope of that punchiness. Now, at the very bottom, we have a detection range. And basically what the detection range does is, it's allowing you to say or ask you, hey, what do you want me to detect frequency range wise of this sound to actually decide what I'm going to use as I'm going to accentuate the attack when I pretty much hear this range poke or pop out. So basically what I could do is I could say, for instance, if I had a drum loop, it's the best way I can explain it. Imagine if I had a drum loop and I have kick, hi-hats, and I have snares. I know deep down that my kick is down in that 60 hertz range. And if I say to myself, dang, I really want to increase or I really want these transients to accentuate just when that kick is hitting, then what I could do is I could take the detection range, bring it down to that range, and say, I just want you to detect and basically give me that transient and that punchiness when you detect this particular range, 60 hertz, pop. So that's how you can use the detecting range to have a more accurate style of knowing when it should accentuate that transient or take away from that transient, because obviously you can take the punchiest knob the other way. Hope that makes sense. Last but not least, we have the left and right, which you are affecting the stereo image. You also have MS, which can affect the mid channel differently from the side channel, depending on what type of material that you're trying to add more punch and things of that nature to. Obviously, you have in the left-right mode, you can decide if you want to affect the left channel of it versus the right channel. If it was in mid-side, you would be able to affect more of the mid channel versus more of the side channel. And then on this side, you have this, which is basically without you having to use the slider, you can just use this percentage to decide what you want to do, left or right. And that is in punching. So this next plugin from Techivation is called T-Warmer, which is described as a musical sound warmer. Now, honestly, when I hear musical and sound and warmth all together in one shot, I'm thinking even order harmonics and saturation and things of that nature. Not saying that's all it is, but that's the first thing that my brain is going to. I know a lot of us have a lot of plugins that do quote unquote warmth, but I did find this one very pleasing and very nice. Just check this out, and obviously draw your own conclusions, but check this out. So what I'm gonna do is I have a piano sound. I'm gonna play it for you right quick. This is the piano without it. Cool, so that's the piano sound. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dial in some settings with the T-Warmer and get an idea of what I wanted to sound. I wanna warm this piano up. I'm gonna add some harmonics into it with the plugin. Let's listen to what it sounds like. So to me, it just, you know, it's really funny because I know a lot of us have a bunch of different warmer saturation kind of plugins, but man, this one to me really felt pleasing to my ear, where it wasn't like this very muddy saturation that it added to give me that warmth, but it just filled up my speakers and it was really pleasing to me. I'm gonna walk you around the plugin, even though it is, once again, super simple and pretty self-explanatory. Here we have the warmth knob, which is, like it says, sets the amount of warming effect that you are adding to the actual signal. Down here, you have a mix knob, which obviously you can create parallel processes as far as you want 50% of that or 70% of that. To me, personally, I was on 100%. I like the sound of it on 100%, and then deciding with the warmth knob as far as how much of that I actually wanted into it. Decide for yourself. Here you have this frequency knob, and what the frequency knob is doing is it's basically allowing you to decide if you want to affect 20 hertz to what. So what I'm saying is, if I had it here at 30 hertz, I'm basically affecting everything from, let's do it again. If I'm have it right here, I'm affecting everything from 20 hertz to 82 hertz. So I'm basically deciding with this one knob where that kind of crossover is happening, where I'm deciding I want you to affect everything from here and below, and that's it. So for me, I felt like I was starting to get a lot more presence in that body and warmth when I went up to about 300 with that piano. Now granted, I could have went further, but nonetheless, when I got there, I felt like I was getting what I wanted. So I use this knob sparingly and kind of decide where I want to dial that warmth and stuff like that in. Now on the right hand side, you have the effects modes, and these are 4 different sounding effects as far as the warmth. One, to me in particular, as far as the hard, actually feels like there's a little bit of an odd order harmonic because things get very aggressive. Not saying that's what it is, but I'm gonna let you listen to all 4 of these modes with the same stuff dialed in as before and kind of hear what each one sounds like as far as that algorithm is concerned. Check this out. On warm first, which is the one you heard. as far as this piano is concerned, warm just feels so lush to me. Like I'm really a big fan of warm, and I'm definitely looking at it more for my instruments and perhaps vocals. It just has a really lush sound. Hard felt like it was giving me a little bit more aggression, which I can see for certain instruments that I was looking for. Perhaps maybe if you have an electric guitar and you want warmth, but you don't want to soften the guitar. You want the guitar to still give you that aggression and meanness, but you're looking for a little bit more body. I can see myself going to the hard one to give me that. On the fat feels like it really is a character. It really feels like it alters the character a bit. Now, on this particular example, I can clearly hear that it wasn't the biggest difference or added this huge character shift, but I can definitely hear a little bit of a character shift as far as the sound. I'm sure if I crank that warmth up about 100% and really listen to these effects, I would hear that fat knob really alter the actual characteristics of the sound and really give me more of like those low mids and that kind of aggression as far as the thickness and stuff like that in that sound. Smooth was very subtle. It was very soft. I could see it for a certain material if you just wanted a little bit more of that warm sound, but you don't want to do too much to your original. So that is literally the Techivation T warmer. It's, like I said, it's very subtle, and I like the sound of it. It's not overtly there, but it just has a feeling to it, and it really did fill up my speakers when it came to my instrument as far as the piano. I can see myself using it more for my instruments, perhaps my vocals, and maybe on my bass, but that would depend. I want to hear what it sounds like on your basses. You let me know in the comments below if you do try it for bass. But that's yet to be something that I've really tried to test it and really test it with, because I'm gonna be honest, bass is a tough one to put saturation on without destroying certain things. So this plugin that we're gonna look at right now is called the T-De-Esser Pro, which is a de-esser. But like I was telling you in the beginning, the functionality on this de-esser is allowing me to make moves in a de-esser that I've been wanting for years. Check this out. So right now I got a vocal, and all I'm gonna do is play it, dial in some settings, and try and get rid of these S's and T's. This is the vocal so far. Check this out. Nothing on.
Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. I promise to be patient with you. We're one and the same, it's so hard to ever save. Tell me what you're willing to do.
So you can hear those S's and T's that are jarring through and splitting through. Let's use this plugin to get rid of that stuff and kind of ease up on that sibilance. Let's turn it on. I'll use it, dial it in, and then I'll explain the entire plugin.
Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. I promise to be patient. Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. I promise to be patient with. Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. I promise to be patient with you. Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. I promise to be patient with you. We're one and the same, it's so hard to ever save. Tell me what you're willing to do. Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. I promise to be patient. Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. I promise to be patient. Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. Just okay. I promise to be patient with you. We're one and the same, it's so hard to ever save. Tell me what you're willing to do. Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. I promise to be patient with you. We're one and the same, it's so hard to ever save. Tell me what you're willing to do. Know you feel the same. Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. I promise to be patient with you. We're one and the same, it's so hard to ever save. Tell me what you're willing to do. Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. I promise to be patient with you. We're one and the same, it's so hard to ever save. Tell me what you're willing to do. Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. I promise to be patient with you. We're one and the same, it's so hard to ever save. Tell me what you're willing to do. Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. I promise to be patient with you. We're one and the same, it's so hard to ever save. Tell me what you're willing to do.
So I had so much more control over this de-esser. And with a lot of de-essers, sometimes, and I hope you saw that last move where I literally took the release and I said, yo, I want to make the release just a little bit faster to let it go because I can feel that compression. Sometimes with some de-essers, I don't have that functionality or I don't have that control. Yes, some you do, but mostly when I've used a lot of de-essers, I don't have the functionality or the control over the attack and release to kind of dial things in the way I want it to release and grab those S's and T's and the sibilants and stuff like that. I'm gonna show you all these crazy things that I did within this and dialing in those settings to get rid of that sibilants and things of that nature. So I'll take you through the entire plugin. So right here we have the processing knob, which is basically a threshold. You can clearly see that as the S's and T's or the sibilants goes past the thresholds that I've set, that it obviously starts attenuating the actual S's and T's that it sees past the threshold. Self-explanatory. Let me copy these settings right quick. Here we have the frequency range, which you can decide of where you want the de-essing to occur. You can click low high, which you can clearly see right down here, and the frequency range is kind of letting you know what that is attacking: mid-high, high, and high end. Now granted, within just pressing those 4 buttons, you can also just take the frequency range and decide for yourself where you want it to actually attenuate that sibilance. You saw me, for instance, click this filter knob and basically just listen in on this frequency range that it has and find where I felt like I was getting a lot of that sibilance. Great feature. A lot of de-essers have that, I'm aware, but super simple, and I'm just explaining to you how it works in the plugin. The other thing we have below that is intensity, which is basically the strength of the de-esser. Basically, this is letting you know or allowing you to choose how hard do you want this de-esser to basically attack that sibilance and things of that nature. It's a ratio. If you see it right there, you can clearly see even the ratio is here underneath. Sharpness is interesting because it kind of lets you decide how you want that attenuation of that sibilance to sound from a smoothness standpoint as far as how it grabs it. When I'm moving it more to the right, it kind of makes the grabbiness, which is not a word, I know, of the sibilance just a little bit smoother as opposed to the left side where it feels a little bit more quicker and more obvious. To me, it feels like a knee. Let me let you hear what the sharpness sounds like all the way to the left and then all the way to the right. Sharpness all the way to the left first.
Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. I promise to be patient with you. We're one and the same, it's so hard to ever save. Tell me what you're willing to do. Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. I promise to be patient with you. Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay.
See, with it to the left, it feels a little bit more aggressive and feels a little bit more meaner as far as and when it's to the right, it just feels like it grabs it just a little bit smoother as far as how it rolls as far as that is concerned. To me, my brain is seeing a knee, and it's seeing that knee go from harder to softer with as far as that sound is concerned, as far as how it kind of grabs things and stuff like that. Just know, to the right with the sharpness, smoother. To the left, a little bit harder as far as that sound is concerned. Use your ears. Right here we have attack and release. Self-explanatory and great to have in a de-esser. I've wanted this forever. Some de-essers do have it. I know, I'm very aware, but it's just nice to have it. It's not the most common thing that I've seen in de-essers to have the actual ability to alter the attack and release, but you can alter the attack and release. Like I said, on that very last move, I said to myself, I feel like it was holding the actual compression or de-essing a little too long, so I decided to speed up the release to make sure that it let go fast enough so I can get back to the words and the rest of the stuff that is actually in the vocal as far as what is being sung. Right here, we have the look ahead, which they've described, Techivation, as extra clarity for the de-esser. Now, to me, I know in the back of my mind, if look ahead is on, be very careful with latency with the look ahead. I've seen this on many plugins and things of that nature. And obviously, if you're trying to track with it, which I haven't tested it on the latency side, I just know deep down, if I have the look ahead on, I'm gonna get more latency than I do without it. But nonetheless, you're getting, as they say, more clarity out of the actual plugin with the look ahead on. So keep that in mind. Here we have a mix knob, which obviously allows you to decide how much of the plugin's processing you want versus the unprocessed signal. Here you have an oversample button, which you can decide for yourself. Be very careful with this. I always tell people, don't just think that 32 sampling sounds great. Sometimes you can find a nice sweet spot that gives you both the blend of a non-phasey sound, but also helping you with aliasing and things of that nature. So be very careful with this. I won't get too deep into this. Use your own judgment, use your ears as you click through to decide which one you want. Then you have the diff knob and you have the filter knob. Obviously, diff is allowing you to, like it says, preview the de-esser effect. I'll let you hear it. So this is very good for when you're trying to figure out, hey, am I grabbing too much stuff? Meaning, are you grabbing stuff more outside of the S's and T's, or are you grabbing other things as well? So this is kind of cool to just kind of check yourself and just make sure you're staying in line. Filter allows you to just audition the filter, meaning this frequency range slider right here. So as I hit filter,
Know you feel the same.
so it's allowing me to hear and listen in for what I'm actually honed in on from the frequency range standpoint. Self-explanatory. Here we have the link, which obviously this is going to be the de-essing link between the left and right channels. On the right-hand side, you can see that I have it on the left and right channels, but I can also go to mid-side as well. Use that for your, however you decide to use it for a de-esser. It's interesting to have. On this right-hand side, we have a high cut, which I thought was actually pretty interesting. And at first I was like, never thought of that. And it's just cool to have, or it's just interesting to have. Basically, it is literally a high cut filter. So basically, watch this.
Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. I promise to be patient with you. We're one and the same, it's so hard to ever say.
For me, I can see myself using this as, man, where is that S's and T's coming from? Is it really coming from 20,000 hertz to 16,000 hertz? Well, let me check. Let me roll all that stuff off right quick and listen. And roll it off and I go, oh, it is up there. And then I go back to my de-esser. Or if I feel like I have too much high end in general, I'll just take it and say, let me get a little bit of that high end, just taking off 20,000 hertz to 18,000 hertz or 17,000 hertz. To me, I can use this particular de-esser to really dial in and really clean up my high end. Let me show you why I'm saying that. This is one of the most interesting features that I've ever seen on a de-esser. Here is a saturation slider. What this saturation slider is, when I click filter, it is saturating the range that I am basically attacking. Why that's so cool, why that's so important is because it kind of, to me, has like this tube effect where I love the sound of a tube because I feel like I get like these very smooth kind of highs. I get the high end, get that bitiness of the tube, but I feel like the tube has a very interesting way of how it gives me high end, where I feel like I'm getting high end, but in a very smooth way. So with this being said, turning up the saturation of the actual frequency range that I'm attacking in the de-esser, it kind of smooths things out, but it gives me such a pleasing and warmth to that actual area. Check this out for yourself. I'll crank it. Listen close.
Know you feel the same, not perfect, but just okay. I promise to be patient with you. We're one and the same, it's so hard to ever say. Tell me what you're willing to do.
It kind of takes like that breakiness that's happening up top and just smooths it out. Man, I mean, in my head, I was like, yo, I might just use it for that in general, just kind of going to that range where that high end just doesn't feel good to me and just needs to be smoothed out, and just using it to saturate it and just really getting that sound out of it, which I think is the sickest part about this whole thing. That's my personal opinion. But yeah, these 3 plugins, like I said, are very interesting to me. I feel like this De-Esser in general kind of reinvents the wheel and just reimagines things a little bit, just because I have so much control over what I want to do, even some extra bells and whistles like the saturation to help me basically get to that place that I'm looking for within everything. So thank you so much to Techivation for actually sponsoring this video. Please comment, like, and subscribe. I'll leave a link in the description below for all 3 of these plugins, to the T-Warmer, the T-De-Esser Pro, and for the other one we did, which is the M Puncher. Let me know how you felt about it in the comments below, and until next time, y'all. I'll also leave a link in the description below to Techivation's website so you can get the plugins for yourself if you decide to.